Let's look at some types of perspective. First, we have overlapping. Okay, as you can see, the pink is at the front, the turquoise is at the back. In this painting, Jacob Lawrence has shown depth by overlapping his figures. Next, we're going to talk about size in regards to perspective. Typically, things that are far away are going to be really small. Things that are closer are going to be big. And things in the middle are medium size. In Hokusai's Great Wave, the Great Wave is exactly that, great big wave, and you can see Mount Fuji way in the distance, very small. So typically, things that are farther away might be really high up on the picture plane. Things that are closer might be lower. They just feel that way as well. Grandma Moses used placement to show depth by putting her figures that were farther away at the top of the picture and those that are closer at the bottom. Another way that perspective is shown is by things that are close being very detailed, things that are farther away being very vague or sketchy. Now this is a drawing I did at the beach in California, and the palm tree is very detailed, whereas the trees way in the distance are just shapes. Close, far. The Mona Lisa is a perfect example of the type of perspective, sometimes called detail or focus, or even atmospheric, where things that are close are very clearly defined and things in the background tend to look out of focus or fuzzy. Next, we're going to talk about colors. So typically, lighter toned colors, lighter value colors are going to come towards you, and cooler colors, darker tone colors, are going to recede. So the yellow here is advancing, the blue, purple receding. Sometimes I will say hot colors come towards you, cool colors go away. That's a rule of thumb. Okay. The Tree of Life stained glass design by Henri Matisse shows the cool colors of blue in the background in front of the yellow leaves. They jump forward. And also you can see even in the light that comes through reflected on the floor, the same effect. So now we're going to talk not about color, but we're going to talk about value. Okay, so oftentimes when you look at a landscape, for example, and we're going to look at one soon, you'll see that the front oftentimes might be really dark, and then as it goes towards the horizon or way back towards the sky, it gets lighter, okay? And that is giving a sense of depth, a sense of perspective. This fantastic landscape clearly depicts the importance of value in creating depth. We are now going to talk about linear perspective. And we're going to start with 1-point linear perspective. So step 1 is to create what we call the horizon line. And the horizon line is an actual thing that you see at sunrise or sunset. It divides the sky from the land or sea. And on that horizon line, we are going to put a dot. And we are going to call that dot VP. And VP stands for vanishing point. All right. The next thing we need is a shape, and we're going to try this nice shape here. It is a square, as you can see. And right now it's two-dimensional, and we are going to turn this two-dimensional square into a three-dimensional cube through 1-point perspective. So I've got these dots on the edges here, and I'm going to use my trusty ruler and go 1 and line these up, 2 and line these up, 3. And there I have now a three-dimensional object. Looks like a huge pyramid, long pyramid going all the way to the vanishing point. Now what I want to do is turn it into a cube. So I am going to draw a line right about here, and I'm going to make sure it is parallel. When you're drawing geometric linear perspective, such as a square or a rectangle or what have you, you want to make sure that lines stay parallel or perpendicular. All right. The ones going to the vanishing point are going to be generally diagonal. All right, so I'm going to make sure that this is parallel to there, and I'm going to draw a line. Boom. Okay. And then using this point, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to look for the parallel line here and here, and it looks like it's just about there, and I'm going to go like that. So now I have a cube. If I were using a pencil, I could erase these lines behind and make it a solid form. Here is a painting by Filippo Brunelleschi depicting a plaza in Italy. Here is Brunelleschi's piece. I'm going to draw in the lines of perspective. And as you can see, they all converge at the doorway of the central building. Brunelleschi was one of the pioneers of creating perspective in Renaissance art. This painting is by the Surrealist painter Giorgio de Chirico. Let's see where these lines of perspective end up. So you can see here on this de Chirico where I have drawn in the lines of perspective, and he purposefully kind of played around with the actual vanishing points just to enhance the surrealistic nature of his paintings. Now we're going to talk about 2-point perspective. And I have a great photograph of a building in Seattle that demonstrates beautifully 2-point perspective, and I will show that to you after my demo. This time VP is going to be number 1 and VP number 2, kind of like thing 1 and thing 2. So this time I am going to draw just a straight line, because what I'm doing with a 2-point perspective is I'm going to be imagining myself standing at the corner of a building looking down each side of it. Okay, so now I have these 2 points that are going to line up to my vanishing points. So I'm going to point number 1, and it's going to get 2 of these. Alrighty. And then point number 2 is going to get 2 of these. And just matching those up. All right, so now I've got the sides of my building. Now I need the back. I need the back sides. So how am I going to do that? Well, first I'm going to say, where does my building end? And again, I'm thinking parallel lines, right? So my building is going to end over here. That's how long it is going to be. And again, I'm going to do my parallel, parallel, making sure it's nice and parallel. And then I'm going to draw my line. Okay. Now this has become a point. So now I am going to take that point to this point, and I'm going to draw it. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to go to the other side, and I am going to say that is And that one is going to go over to my point number 1. Boom. Here, my friends, is 2-point perspective, and here is our building. And now you're going to see this in real life. Okay, now we're going to have some fun with 3-point perspective. We're going to start off once again using our horizon line here and creating VP1. We are going to create VP2, and this time we're going to add VP3. That's going to go right there. So just like you did with your 2-point perspective, you want to start with a straight line. It's going to come off of number 3 here, and it's as if I were looking again at a corner of a building, but this time my viewpoint is going to be as if I were a drone on top of the buildings, right? So I've got these points top and bottom, so I'm going to just put those there and put that one, draw that one in there, and draw that one in there, and one more way down here to there. So now you're going to say to yourself, wow, Sarah, this looks a lot like 2-point perspective. And you're right, it is. How are we going to involve this point? So remember before I was telling you that things had to be parallel? Well, in 3-point perspective, that's not so. What you're going to do is you're going to use this point as your pivot, and you're going to create the edges of your building with this being the bottom point. Okay, so this is the top of the building, okay, and it's going to go like so. Boom. Now you've got a point up here. So that point obviously is going to want to go and meet vanishing point number 2. Okay, let's get that lined up. And there it is. Boom. And now you're going to have a point probably right around here. Same thing. Go down to vanishing point number 3. Stop at the edge of your building. And then last but not least, we're going to get one over here. So now you have your building. Now again, if I were using pencil, I could erase all of that and have my tall building. Maybe there's a helicopter pad up there, little pedestrians here. I have a very fun illustration to show you that demonstrates 3-point perspective.